This is the Tree of Life, Season 15, Chapter 8. In this episode, we will be talking about exclusive or binary structures and non-exclusive or analog structures in relation to a substitution event. To start off, in the past several seasons, we discussed how a substitution event results from negation of an impulse. In this conceptualization, the negation leads to a separation between path parsimony and time parsimony, and 9 more convoluted paths corresponding to longer time frames. Those paths describe paths corresponding to the movement of the actor over the scale of negation, being the time frame associated with the initially negated impulse. This scale of negation results in 9 descending increasingly convoluted paths, leading to what we called substitution events. Each of these more convoluted paths results in the potentiality of further intersections with some other, which leads to 9 further descending paths, and so on and so forth. The idea was that during each of these descending paths, more time passes than would be reflected in the scale of negation. At the conclusion of these paths is the formation of a new structure in the resumption of time parsimony after the sublimation of the impulse, which results in the formation of an exclusive structure involving the originating impulse shifted into a dialectical arrangement by class, which is binary. I.e., it results in the originating impulse being reoriented into an affirmational, dialectical impulse through the flipping of phase. And b. It results in a causal reordering from the deepest path of descent upward in ascending order to the least convoluted path, such that the events, which occurred during those convoluted paths, are reflected in the physical world rather than those which accord with path parsimony. Thus we see that negation leads to shifting of an analog structure, that is, one that describes 2 substitutionary dialectical impulses into a binary one. This binary structure is exclusive, that is, it describes exclusive word associations, whilst also consolidating conformational entropy as a set of arrangements. Now, we also see that displacement mirroring prevents this infinite recursion and the manifold descent, which describes negation. In that case, the descent is severed by the substitution of another actor for the original actor with respect to affirmation of the negated impulse. That is, we see the migration of that impulse within the structure. In this case, we also see that structure transition from an analog one to a binary one. Finally, in a nonlinear displacement event, we see that the original actor remembers path parsimony whilst the other actor remembers the paths associated with time parsimony subject to the causal reordering. A nonlinear displacement event likewise involves the flipping of phase, that is, flipping of negation and affirmation with respect to a pair of impulses for the original actor, caused by a secondary structure involving the second actor. Thus, we see that a nonlinear displacement event does not cause the conversion of an analog structure to a binary structure. It merely shifts the phase with respect to the same 2 contextual dialectical impulses. Thus, we can see that the reason that the original actor recalls path parsimony and the second actor recalls time parsimony is because the original actor remains within an analog structure and the second within a binary structure. Now, we can also note that the information associated with the path within time parsimony is greater. This is reflected by the fact that when an analog structure pairs contextually oriented dialectical impulses, which are not contradictory, but substitutionary, it halves the conformational entropy available to the 2 impulses. We can also see that time parsimony, here represented by the second actor's recall, represents the maximum entropy describing the most convoluted paths associated with the spatial world, whilst the first actor's recall represents a contextually dependent, but significantly lower conformational entropy represented by the pairing of substitutionary impulses. We can hypothesize that distinct kinds of structures thus reflect distinct forms of recall. Path parsimony tends to be reflected in analog structures, whereas time parsimony within binary structures. That's the end of the podcast for today.